Chapter 631. Came to the corpse sect. Bai Ke looked at the genetic potion in Yi Li's hand in a daze. My lord, what is this? Bai Ke asked in confusion. This is a potion to improve your genetic talent. Drink it and your genetic talent will become S-grade, Yi Li said slowly. As soon as these words were spoken, the pupils of the Bai family could not help but constrict. Upgrade Bai Ke's genetic talent to S-grade? One had to know that S-class genetic talent only existed in legends. Bai Ke was also stunned. She took the gene potion from Yi Li's hand in a daze. She knew that Yi Li would not lie to her. Immediately, Bai Ke drank the purple gene enhancement potion. As soon as she drank it, Bai Ke felt a wave of heat all over her body. She hurriedly sat down cross-legged and refined the genetic enhancement potion in her body. Everyone from the Bai family looked at Bai Ke. A moment later, Bai Ke opened her palm, and a ball of purple spiritual energy appeared. Wasn't the purple spiritual energy corresponding to the S-grade gene talent? Although the Bai family knew that Yi Li wouldn't lie to them, when they really saw the purple spiritual energy in Bai Ke's hand, they were shocked again. Thank you, my lord. Bai Ke looked at Yi Li happily. Yi Li's handsome face was as calm as water. He said slowly, cultivate well. We'll meet again if fate allows. With that, Yi Li activated his swift steps and disappeared from the scene. The coordinates of the super treasure map were the corpse mountain, but Yi Li still did not know what the corpse mountain was. Was it a mountain? Or a sect? Following the coordinates, Yi Li and Hongya soon arrived at the foot of the corpse mountain. Corpse mountain was a black mountain with a deathly aura. There were no flowers or trees. Standing here was a little suffocating. Roar! Roar! What Yi Li didn't expect was that there were many zombies at the foot of the mountain. However, these zombies were all very low-leveled. Hundreds of zombies rushed towards Yi Li and Hongya. Hongya! Yi Li called out to Hongya. Hongya instantly disappeared on the spot. Hundreds of ordinary zombies were no match for Hongya. In just a few seconds, hundreds of zombies fell to the ground. Yi Li used the synthesis grid in his mind to synthesize these zombies. He obtained a level 8 male zombie and a level 8 female zombie. After putting the level 9 male zombie and the level 9 female zombie into the system space, Yi Li prepared to go up the mountain with Hongya. Before he could take a step, he heard a stunned voice. Where are the zombies at the foot of the mountain? We gathered hundreds of zombies at the foot of the mountain, but they seem to have disappeared now. There's someone there. Suddenly, more than 10 genetic warriors in gray robes ran over. When Yi Li was in Lan City, he had also seen genetic martial artists in gray robes. It was more than once. Of course, they were genetic warriors from the corpse sect. More than 10 genetic warriors from the corpse sect arrived in front of Yi Li and Hongya. What are you doing? Where are the zombies at the foot of the mountain? A Tier 3 evolved being shouted sternly. His intuition told him that the disappearance of the hundreds of zombies at the foot of the mountain was related to the man and woman in front of him. The zombies you're talking about are mine now, Yi Li said lightly. The dozen or so genetic warriors from the corpse sect were stunned when they heard this. Then they stared at Yi Li. Could it be that you also know the secret technique to control zombies? The Tier 3 evolved being said coldly. Yi Li shook his head slightly. I don't know about the secret technique. Move aside. I'll go to your corpse mountain to find something. He thought that the treasure on the super treasure map might be another fragment of the Pangu axe. Chapter 632. She didn't seem human. The dozen or so genetic warriors from the corpse sect were shocked again. The man in front of him had just said that the hundreds of zombies at the foot of the mountain had become his zombies. There were hundreds of zombies. Could this person be a high-leveled evolved being? Moreover, he said he wanted to go up Corpse Mountain to find something. What do you take the corpse sect for? Hurry up and tell me, where did you lure hundreds of zombies to? If you don't tell me, you should know what will happen to you. The rank 3 evolved being stared at Yi Li's mouth. Hongya. Yi Li called out to Hongya. Hongya naturally understood what Yi Li meant. Roar. In an instant, these dozen or so genetic warriors from the corpse sect died with wide-open eyes. Yi Li looked at the corpses on the ground and couldn't help but shake his head. Why does no one believe me? Without much hesitation, Yi Li and Hongye headed towards the corpse mountain. Yi Li and Hongye arrived at the main hall of the corpse sect in an instant. There were people sitting on both sides in the corpse sect's main hall, with a grim-looking old man sitting on the throne above. They were discussing something. Seeing Yi Li and Hongye suddenly appear, they were stunned. They were all high-level devolved beings, but they did not notice the sudden appearance of these two people in the hall at all. Thinking of this, everyone in the corpse sect's main hall was shocked. Who are you? A seventh-tier evolved being stood up and questioned Yi Li and Hongye coldly. Yi Li's handsome face was as calm as water, and Hongye's fair face was as cold as ice. It was as if they didn't care about these people at all. You won't know me even if I tell you. I came to the corpse sect just to find an axe, Yi Li said slowly. An axe? The dozen or so people in the corpse sect's main hall were stunned. They did not expect Yi Li to say such a thing. Are you talking about the stone axe at the top of the mountain? The seventh-tier evolved being asked again. As Yi Li had expected, he guessed that the treasure on the super treasure map was a Pangu axe fragment. He did not expect it to be true. Before Yi Li could speak, a Tier 1 evolved being ran in terror. Something bad has happened, Sect Master. When everyone in the hall heard this, they stood up from their seats. What happened? Zhang Tong, the leader of the corpse sect, hurriedly asked. The hundreds of zombies at the foot of the mountain are gone. There are also more than 10 corpses of our disciples there. What? As soon as these words were spoken, everyone in the corpse sect's hall gasped. What? Zhang Tong asked in shock. It's absolutely true, Sect Master. This Tier 1 evolved being replied in shock. Then, everyone in the hall suddenly thought of something and looked at Yi Li and Hongye in unison. Did you do it? Zhang Tong stared at Yi Li and Hongye. His already cold face became even colder. Yi Li smiled. Looks like you're not too stupid. When Zhang Tong heard this, he could not help but burn with anger. He was about to unleash his thunderous anger. Sect Master, this woman doesn't seem to be human. Suddenly, a seventh-tier evolved being exclaimed. Everyone in the hall hurriedly looked at Hongye. They were all high-level evolved beings, so of course, they could tell something. How is this possible? It was fine if the high-level evolved being of the corpse sect didn't look, but when they took a closer look, they were scared out of their wits. Master-level zombie? Only master-level zombies would have almost no zombification on their faces, and their eyes would turn black. The only thing that could be used to distinguish them was their aura. Chapter 633. The second Pangu axe fragment B0 CM. The high-level devolved beings in the main hall of the corpse sect looked at Hongye in horror. They would never have thought that Hongye was a master-level zombie. Impossible, this is absolutely impossible. How can a master-level zombie appear here? Zhang Tong said coldly. After saying that, Zhang Tong stared at Yi Li and continued. I think this must be some kind of secret technique. Hearing that, all the high-level devolved beings in the hall felt that it made sense. Master-level zombies only existed in legends. How could they appear here? Yi Li smiled to himself. He didn't expect these ants to be able to tell that Hongye was a zombie. Unfortunately, they couldn't tell Hongye's true cultivation realm. Brat, it's a good thing that I have a good eye. Otherwise, one would really be frightened by you. Let me ask you again. The hundreds of zombies at the foot of the corpse mountain disappeared, and the dozen or so corpses of my corpse sect. Were you the ones who did it? The leader of the corpse sect, Zhang Tong, asked coldly. That's right, we did it. However, I don't want to kill you. One just want the stone axe on the top of the mountain, Yi Li said leisurely. The high-level devolved beings in the main hall of the corpse sect were infuriated when they heard that. This person entered the dignified corpse sect as if no one was around. Brat, do you know the consequences of offending my corpse sect? Zhang Tong shouted angrily. Zhang Tong was a level 9 evolved being, but in Yi Li's eyes, he was still a pitifully weak ant. Consequences? Yi Li thought for a while and shook his head slightly. I don't know what will happen if one offend your corpse sect, but I actually want to tell you a secret, though one feel a little embarrassed about it. All the high-level devolved beings in the hall were stunned. They did not expect Yi Li to tell them a secret. What secret? Zhang Tong stared at Yi Li. In his opinion, Yi Li and Hongya were already lambs waiting to be slaughtered. There was no difference for them between living one more second or one less. Yi Li looked at the ceiling and then at his hands. He slowly said, "Actually, she's not a master-level zombie, but a lord-level zombie." "What?" Everyone in the main hall of the corpse sect sucked in a breath of cold air and looked at Yi Li and Hongya in horror. They wanted to talk. They really wanted to talk. It was a pity that he could not say it no matter what. They would never have a chance to talk because the dead couldn't talk. The high-level devolved beings in the main hall of the corpse sect all had a shocking bloody hole on their foreheads. Their eyes were wide open. They could not believe that they had died just like that. There was no change in Yi Li's handsome face. There was no point in killing these tasteless flies. Then he and Hongya headed towards the top of Corpse Mountain. After arriving at the top of Corpse Mountain, he indeed found the stone axe. Without much thought, Yi Li walked in front of the stone axe and pulled it out. Another bolt of lightning struck the stone axe. The stone axe instantly cracked open, and a shiny black axe appeared in Yi Li's hand. Now, it was already the second Pango axe fragment. With another one, he could synthesize 3 Pango axe fragments and obtain the real Pango axe. Yi Li stood at the top of Corpse Mountain. He used his heavenly spirit eyes to check and found a base city not far away. He concealed Hongya's aura and headed to the base city with her. When they arrived at the city closest to the base city, they found there were many zombies in this city. He found a group of zombie hunting teams excitedly hunting zombies. Chapter 634. Lightning Zombie Hunting Team B0 Zenval. CM Yi Li and Hongya arrived at the city closest to the base city and found a zombie hunting team hunting zombies. There were 10 people in the zombie hunting team, and they were basically all Tier 1 evolved beings. They used all kinds of weapons. The leader of the team was a young girl who looked to be 17 or 18 years old. She was actually a Tier 2 evolved being. Yi Li and Hongya walked over slowly. The zombie hunting team also noticed Yi Li and Hongya, and they couldn't help but become vigilant. "Who are you?" The girl looked at Yi Li and Hongya warily. "We are outsiders. We want to go to the base city," Yi Li said to the girl. Hearing that, everyone in the zombie hunting team was stunned. Outsiders? The nearest base city to Linjiang Base City was also a few hundred kilometers away. They didn't know how many heavily infected areas there were between the two base cities. They really didn't understand how Yi Li and Hongya managed to come here. Suddenly, they thought of a shocking possibility. Yi Li and Hongya's realms were very high, at least much higher than theirs. "Hello, seniors. I'm Qinwei, the captain of the lightning squad." When the girl thought about how Yi Li and Hongya were high-level evolved beings, her gaze became respectful. Yi Li smiled to himself. He thought that this girl knew how to conduct herself. "Seniors, Linjiang Base City is just around the corner," Qinwei continued. Suddenly, a Tier 1 evolved being whispered something into her ear. Qinwei was stunned at first. Then she wanted to say something but hesitated, as if she had something difficult to say. A few seconds later, she finally mustered her courage. She looked at Yi Li and Hongya and said, "Seniors, there's a Tier 4 zombie and 2 Tier 3 zombies in City D. Can you help us kill them? As long as we kill these zombies, our points will be at the top of Linjiang Academy." After saying that, Qinwei lowered her head in embarrassment. "That's right, seniors. The fact that you were able to come here from another base city proves that you are definitely powerhouses. Please help us," a Tier 1 evolved being said. Yi Li smiled and said calmly, "Why should one help you?" Did these people all think that Yi Li was a good person? When the lightning squad heard Yi Li's words, they were all very embarrassed. However, they knew that they couldn't provoke powerhouses in zombie-infected areas. Otherwise, they wouldn't even know how they died. Outside the unprotected base city, there was an eternal principle. Good people don't die. Bad people don't die. Only stupid people do. Seniors, you should go to Linjiang Base City now. We'll find a way to deal with the zombies ourselves. Qinwei smiled at Yi Li and Hongya. It was obvious that she understood this principle and didn't dare to offend Yi Li and Hongya. "Let's go," Yi Li said to Hongya, and the two of them started walking. Looking at Yi Li and Hongya's backs, Qinwei heaved a sigh of relief and said disappointedly, We shouldn't have let them help us just now. We don't even know if they're good or bad. Sister Wei, you're right, but 2 Tier 3 zombies and 1 Tier 4 zombie. Forget it. We can't even kill a Tier 3 zombie with our strength. If we can't get first place in this trial, just let it be. That's true. One heard that the Tier 4 zombie is a superpowered zombie. It has a silver pair of boxing gloves and can even release wind, rain, lightning, and thunder attacks. Yili suddenly stopped in his tracks. Chapter 635. News about Audiobook Swordsmanship. CM Yili and Hongya were about to go to Linjiang Base City when he heard the conversation between the members of the Lightning Zombie Hunting Team. The Tier 4 zombie in City D had a silver pair of boxing gloves and could also launch the attacks of wind, rain, lightning, and thunder. Hongya also stopped in her tracks. Her fair face was filled with joy. Master, is it Ada? Ada's boxing gloves were called the Supreme Boxing Gloves. As for the wind, rain, lightning, and thunder, Yili had fused the White Lotus Sect's gold, silver, copper, and iron skills into Ada's body when he was in Anan Bay City. Yili was glad that he didn't leave very quickly with Hongya. Otherwise, they might have missed the news. He turned around and slowly walked toward the Lightning Zombie Hunting Team, followed by Hongya. Sister Wei, they're back. A Tier 1 evolved being hurriedly said. Qin Wei was startled. She didn't understand why Yili and Hongya came back. Could it be they wanted to kill them? At the thought of this, Qin Wei's fair face was filled with shock. Senior, aren't you going to Linjiang Base City? Qin Wei looked at Yili and Hongya tentatively. Let's go. Take us to that Tier 4 zombie, Yili said slowly. Hearing that, the Lightning Zombie Hunting Team couldn't help but be stunned. They didn't expect Yili to say such a thing. Senior, you're willing to help us? Qin Wei's fair face was filled with joy. That Tier 4 zombie is my subordinate. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yili said calmly. The Lightning Zombie Hunting Team was shocked. They looked at Yili in shock. The Tier 4 zombie was his subordinate? What did he mean by that? They could not figure out his words even if they racked their brains. Senior, actually we don't know where the Tier 4 zombie is either. We can only look for it in City D. Qin Wei said to Yili. Upon hearing this, Yili activated the Heavenly Spirit Eyes. He used the Heavenly Spirit Eyes to check, but did not find Ada. After all, the area covered by the Heavenly Spirit Eyes was limited. However, they found many ordinary zombies. After that, Yili, Hongya, and the zombie hunting team started searching in City D. A few minutes later, they encountered a large group of zombies. Roar! Roar! Dozens of zombies pounced on them like hungry ghosts. Qin Wei led the Lightning Zombie Hunting Team to fight with this group of zombies. They all had score sheets on their wrists. The level of the zombies they killed was different, and the points they obtained were also different. Dozens of zombies were just ordinary zombies. There were no mutant zombie. Swish! 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 The Lightning Zombie Hunting Team was killing these zombies. Yili thought that the speed was too slow. However, because of them, he found out where Ada was. Since that was the case, he would give them a little help. Hongya! Yili called out to Hongya. Hongya nodded and immediately flew out at an extremely fast speed, leaving behind only an afterimage. In just 1 second, dozens of zombies fell to the ground. The entire process was as smooth as water flowed. The Lightning Zombie Hunting Team couldn't help but gasp. They looked at the zombies lying on the ground with their mouths agape. Those zombies were not dead. Hurry up and solve it, Yili said slowly. Qin Wei came back to her senses and quickly said, do it. Dozens of zombies fell to the ground like lambs waiting to be slaughtered. In an instant, they were killed by the Lightning Zombie Hunting Team. Chapter 636. Ada was found B0's Nval. CM After the Lightning Zombie Hunting Team finished off the dozens of zombies on the ground, they swallowed their saliva and looked at Hongya in shock. They had guessed that Yili and Hongya were very strong, but they didn't expect them to be so strong. Dozens of zombies were instantly beaten to the ground. This was too terrifying. Roar! Suddenly, a terrifying zombie roar entered their ears. The Lightning Zombie Hunting Team was shocked. They hurriedly looked in the direction of the sound. Their pupils constricted. 2 Tier 3 zombies. In front of them were 2 Tier 3 zombies and hundreds of zombies of different levels. With their strength, they couldn't even kill 1 Tier 3 zombie, let alone 2. Qin Wei stole a glance at Yi Li and Hongya from the corner of her eye. She realized that Yi Li's face was as calm as water and Hongya's face was as cold as ice. It was as if these 2 Tier 3 zombies and hundreds of zombies were nothing in their eyes. Seeing that, Qin Wei was relieved again. She thought that as long as she killed these 2 Tier 3 zombies and hundreds of zombies, they would become the first place in this trial. Roar! Suddenly the 2 Tier 3 zombies and hundreds of zombies moved. They rushed over at an extremely fast speed. At the same time Hongya attacked. Another instant, and only 2 seconds had passed. The entire process was as smooth as flowing water. 2 Tier 3 zombies and hundreds of zombies fell to the ground at the same time. Yi Li didn't choose to synthesize these zombies. To be honest, it didn't matter if the zombies were synthesized or not. He would just give them some opportunities. When the lightning zombie hunting team saw this, their pupils shrank rapidly. Among the hundreds of zombies, there were 2 Tier 3 zombies. They could no longer imagine what realm Hongya was in. Her strength was simply terrifying to the extreme. Yi Li hid Hongya's aura. They couldn't tell that Hongya was a zombie no matter what. Actually, even if Yi Li didn't hide it, they wouldn't be able to find out about it with their cultivation realm. Attack! Qin Wei was the first to come back to her senses. She shouted softly. Then the lightning zombie hunting team began to kill these zombies. A moment later, the lightning zombie hunting team killed 2 Tier 3 zombies and hundreds of other zombies. Sister Wei, we can be first place with our points now. A Tier 1 evolved being said excitedly. If we get first place, we'll get better rewards. All of a sudden, the members of the lightning zombie hunting team cheered. There was no change in Yi Li's handsome face. He was naturally not interested in this. He only wanted to find all Das Remnant's soul, and use the soul summoning banner to help Ada recover. He activated his heavenly spirit eyes to investigate Ada's figure. City D was not big, but it was definitely not small. Finally Yi Li found Ada. Ada was standing with hands behind his back on the rooftop of an office building, looking as if he could oversee the entire world. Yi Li couldn't help but laugh when he saw this scene. He didn't understand what Ada was looking at. The beautiful world? Without thinking too much, he activated swift steps and headed in Ada's direction with Hongya following behind. The 2 seniors are gone? The lightning zombie hunting team was stunned. They couldn't believe that the people in front of them had disappeared in an instant. When can I become someone like that senior? I'm so looking forward to it, Qin Wei muttered to herself. Chapter 637. Complete Ada B0's Nval. CM Yi Li and Hongya arrived at the rooftop of the office building. Ada's remnant soul was standing with his hands behind his back, overseeing the world. With a height of 1.9 meters, he looked extremely oppressive. Roar! Ada roared. He had already discovered Yi Li and Hongya. Who are you? Ada's remnant soul was a Tier 4 zombie, and could already speak. Ada, this is Master. Hongya said to Ada. Master? Ada was stunned. Then he said coldly, one don't have a master. As soon as he finished speaking, Ada attacked Yi Li and Hongya. He punched out fiercely. The 4 elemental attacks of wind, rain, lightning and thunder arrived. Yi Li smiled faintly, thinking Ada was still as hot-tempered as before. Ada was just a remnant soul now. A Tier 4 zombie was too weak in Yi Li's eyes. Just like how he grabbed Hongya, Yi Li reached out and grabbed Ada before placing him into the system space. Then, Yi Li activated the soul summoning banner. The soul summoning banner is being used. 10%, 30%, 60%, 100%. The soul summoning banner has been used. In an instant, Ada's souls and spirits came from all directions. These souls and spirits were about to attack Yi Li, but Yi Li beat them all to the ground in less than a second. Then he began to synthesize Ada's soul. A few seconds later, the complete Ada appeared in front of Yi Li. 5th Tier Lord level, Fist God Zombie, Ada. Master. Ada widened his eyes, his handsome face instantly filled with joy. Big brother all, Master, and I spent a lot of effort to find you. Hongya said to Ada, smiling. Ding. Congratulations to the host for upgrading to Tier 4 Chosen One. Congratulations to the host for obtaining a super treasure chest. The system's voice appeared in Yi Li's mind. Yi Li smiled to himself. He did not expect to become a Tier 4 Chosen One just like that. Wasn't that too easy? He opened his attribute panel. Host Yi Li. System, Super Synthesis System. Weapon, Ancient Dragon Abyss Sword. Realm, Tier 4 Chosen One. Skill, Heaven Severing Sword. Apocalypse Legion, Ada Hongya. Now that Alda and Hongya had been found, there were still 7 zombies left. As long as they found the remaining zombies, the Apocalypse Legion would be complete again. Then, Yi Li opened the super treasure chest. 800 genetic points, 800 strength points, 800 speed points, 800 defense points. Super treasure map 11. Yi Li was stunned. Were there endless super treasure maps? His handsome face lit up. Then he opened the super treasure map. The coordinates appeared in Yi Li's mind. It was Linha Base City. As the saying went, when luck came, it was like eating chewing gum and couldn't be stopped. Why did treasures follow him wherever he went? Yi Li was the only person in the world who could have such luck. Then Yi Li concealed Ada's aura and headed towards Linha Base City. Not long after, they arrived at Linha Base City. Linha Base City was quite big and looked quite prosperous. There were also many genetic warriors on the streets, and they were all evolved beings. Every time Yi Li came to the base city, he had to do one thing, which was to eat. In the wild, where was there anything good to eat? They could only eat a big meal in the base city. He used his heavenly spirit eyes to spy and soon discovered a good-looking Western restaurant. Chapter 638. Used as a shield B0 Zenval. CM Yi Li, Alda, and Hongya walked towards the Western restaurant. The Western restaurant was called the Revolving Restaurant. It was located on a small island in the lake. After arriving at the Western restaurant, the people inside were all dressed in extraordinary clothes. Furthermore, they were all genetic warriors. It was obvious how high the expenses here were. Just as he was about to enter, a girl stood in front of Yi Li. This girl was very beautiful. She looked to be 16 or 17 years old, and there was a proud look on her fair face. She was a Tier 2 evolved being. He's my boyfriend. The girl pointed at Yi Li and said coldly to another young man. Yi Li was stunned. He didn't expect to be shot while lying down. Was this girl using him as a shield? When the surrounding genetic warriors saw this scene, they immediately stopped in their tracks. Be it ordinary people or genetic warriors, they liked good shows to the extreme. Isn't this the second daughter of the Qin family? I heard that the young master of the Huang family, Huang Yun, has been pestering the second daughter of the Qin family, Qin Yu. That's right. One didn't expect the second daughter of the Qin family to already have a boyfriend. Moreover, he's so handsome. He's too handsome. The surrounding genetic warriors began to whisper among themselves. The youth standing opposite Qin Yu was Huang Yun. When Huang Yun heard this, he frowned and sized up Yi Li. He felt that he was considered handsome, but compared to the person in front of him, the difference was like heaven and earth. Are you yes boyfriend? Huang Yun looked at Yi Li and asked coldly. When Qin Yu heard this, she immediately looked at Yi Li with a pleading look in her eyes. Clearly, she wanted to hear Yi Li's affirmative answer. No. Yi Li shook his head. Qin Yu was stunned. She never dreamed that Yi Li would answer so directly. The surrounding genetic warriors were also shocked. Isn't this second Miss Qin's boyfriend? Why did he say no? That's right. I'm so smart, but I can't figure it out. Could it be that second Miss Qin is using this person as a shield? As soon as these words were spoken, the surrounding genetic warriors could not help but widen their eyes. When Qin Yu saw that her plan had been seen through, her fair face was instantly filled with embarrassment. Then it was replaced by anger. No wonder. I've never seen him before. How can he be your boyfriend? Huang Yun smiled and said. Qin Yu ignored Huang Yun and stared at Yi Li. Am I not worthy of you? Qin Yu gritted her teeth. The surrounding genetic warriors all looked at Yi Li when they heard this. They all wanted to see how Yi Li would answer. However, They thought that this person would answer that she was worthy. After all, she was the second daughter of the Qin family. Not good enough. Yili looked at Qin Yu and said slowly. What? The surrounding genetic warriors gasped. Even if they used all their strength, they would never have expected Yili to answer like this. Humph, you think you're worthy of my master? You just don't know your place. Hongya said disdainfully. As soon as these words were spoken, the genetic warriors were dumbfounded. This was the second daughter of the Qin family. The Qin family was one of the strongest families in Linha Base City. No ordinary genetic warriors would dare to provoke her. Didn't these people know? You guys. Qin Yu was extremely angry. As the second daughter of the Qin family, she had never been so angry since she was born. Chapter 639. I'll give you 1 second to disappear. B0 seeing the anger on Qin Ye's face, Huang Yun took a few steps forward and arrived in front of Yili. How dare you make you angry? Huang Yun looked at Yili coldly. The surrounding genetic warriors were stunned. They naturally knew that Huang Yun wanted to stand up for second Miss Qin. Yili smiled to himself. This Huang Yun was a rank 3 evolved being, and was as weak as a speck of dust. He actually dared to boast shamelessly in front of him. What a joke. I'll give you 1 second to disappear. Yili looked at Huang Yun indifferently. As soon as these words were spoken, all the genetic warriors were stunned. They could not believe that Yili was so arrogant. They had seen arrogant people before, but they had never even heard of someone as arrogant as Yili. What did you say? Huang Yun frowned and stared at Yili. Yili shook his head secretly. He didn't understand. He really didn't understand why Huang Yun didn't cherish the opportunity he was given. A playful expression appeared on the faces of the surrounding genetic warriors. They all wanted to see how Yili would react. After all, Huang Yun's family was one of the strongest families in Linjiang Base City. Qin Yu also looked at Yili in disdain. She really did not expect Yili to say that she was not worthy of him. It was really unbearable. Suddenly, a scream that sounded like a pig being slaughtered sounded in everyone's ears. Everyone present was shocked. They saw that Huang Yun was already paralyzed on the ground, and there was a shocking bloody hole in his right leg. How did he do it? A Tier 2 evolved being could not help but exclaim. The genetic warriors looked at each other. They didn't see how Yili attacked at all, but Huang Yun fell to the ground. Moreover, there was a shocking bloody hole on his right leg. What followed was silence. A long silence. Qin Yu could not help but be shocked. She did not expect Yili to be so terrifying. To be able to achieve such speed, his realm was probably unimaginably high. Stupid. Yili looked at Huang Yun, who was still screaming, and said calmly. As soon as he finished speaking, he, Ada, and Hongya slowly walked towards the revolving restaurant. The genetic warriors hurriedly made way for them. They did not want to be like Huang Yun. Yili, Ada, and Hongya walked into the revolving restaurant. He wasn't interested in what happened after that. After ordering a few expensive steaks and red wine, they began to eat and drink. Ada and Hongya were both zombies, so they weren't very interested in this thing. They almost vomited. Yili ate steak quite fast. By the time he was full, he had already eaten more than 10 pieces of steak. Everyone in the revolving restaurant was dumbfounded. Those who could come to the revolving restaurant were all members of the upper-class society in Linjiang Base City. This person was wolfing down the food. Could he be a nouveau riche? Just as everyone in the revolving restaurant was stunned, a group of genetic warriors from the Huang family rushed into the revolving restaurant. Who injured our young master? A Tier 4 evolved being roared. The Huang family was one of the strongest martial families in Linjiang Base City. How could the genetic warriors in the revolving restaurant afford to offend them? They were all scared. I'll ask again, who injured our young master? If you don't stand up now, when I find you, I'll definitely. Before he could finish his sentence, the Tier 4 evolved being was sent flying. Chapter 640. The third fragment of Pangu Axe B0 Zenval. Everyone in the restaurant was stunned. They hurriedly rubbed their eyes, thinking that they had seen wrongly. However, no matter how they rubbed it, the outcome was the same. The Huang family's genetic warriors in the revolving restaurant were also terrified. They looked at each other and exchanged glances. Yili stood up slowly and walked over. The dozen or so genetic warriors of the Huang family looked at Yili, Ada, and Hongya in shock. Go back and tell your Huang family that if they provoke me again, I will turn the Huang family into flat ground in an instant, Yili said slowly. With that, Yili slowly walked out. For some reason, the Huang family felt an unprecedented sense of oppression. This kind of oppression even suffocated them. After walking out, Yili thought that the coordinates of the super treasure map were in Linjiang City, but he still didn't know where it was. Yili looked at the mountain not far away. He had actually used his heavenly spirit eyes to spy on the aura of the dark races. One had to know that the mountain not far away was still within the territory of Linjiang Bay City. He put Ada and Hongya into the system space, then activated swift steps and flew towards a mountain not far away. After reaching the mountain, Yili followed the aura of the dark race. Not long after, he heard some movements. A few days ago, a multicolored light appeared here. There must be some shocking spirit treasure here. But we haven't found it after searching for so long. Master, do you think we should go back? A group of genetic warriors appeared in front of Yili. They were all Tier 5 evolved beings and above. An old man in a tang suit was silent for a moment before saying, "All right." Just as the genetic warriors were about to leave, a group of dark race members suddenly appeared in front of them. This group of dark race members were all above the 6th tier, and their leader was a 9th tier dark race member. You want to leave? Everyone here today should stay here. The Tier 9 dark race member said with a cold smile. The dozen or so human genetic warriors were stunned. They didn't expect the dark race to suddenly appear. You guys? The old man in the tang suit looked at the dark race in front of him in shock. He was only an 8th tier evolved being. He had no chance of winning against a 9th tier dark race. Yili watched this scene from a tree. A playful expression appeared on his face as he prepared to sit on the mountain and watch the tigers fight. Ding. Detected a Pangu axe fragment. Host, please pick it up. At this moment, the system's voice resounded in Yili's mind. Yili was stunned. A fragment of Pangu axe? Where is it? He activated the heavenly spirit eyes to take a look and discovered that Pangu axe was in the middle of this group of human genetic warriors. However, it hid quite well and was not easy to discover. Just as the human genetic warriors and the dark races were about to fight, Yili appeared in front of them. Both humans and dark race members were stunned. They never expected a human to suddenly appear. There was no change in Yili's handsome face. He calmly scanned the humans and the dark races. Let me take something first, then you guys fight. Okay, I'm done. Now who agrees and who opposes? Yili said slowly. As soon as these words were spoken, the humans and genetic warriors were shocked. They looked at Yili in a daze. Human, do you know that you're committing suicide? The 9th tier dark race member asked coldly. Chapter 641. The Complete Pangu Axe B0 Zenval. CM Yili looked at the 9th tier dark race members calmly and said slowly, I'll say it again. You guys can fight after I retrieve something. I'm done. Now who agrees and who opposes? The 9th tier dark race member was furious. He glared at Yili. I object. Unfortunately, as soon as the level 9 dark race member finished speaking, he was annihilated. The entire process was so fast that it left one speechless. Shocked, utterly shocked. The eyes of the dozen or so genetic warriors and the dark race members widened for the largest time in history. Their faces were as shocked as they could be. Then this group of dark race members came back to their senses. A thought appeared in their minds at the same time, and that was to escape. This group of dark race members had reached the fastest speed in history. Yili didn't chase after them because these dark race members had nothing to do with him. His goal was only the Pangu axe fragment. The genetic warriors led by the old man in the traditional Chinese suit looked at Yili in shock. They had never seen a terrifying genetic warrior like Yili. Senior, you want to take something, right? Please go ahead. The old man in the traditional Chinese suit hurriedly said. Immediately, more than 10 genetic warriors made way for Yili. Yi Li's handsome face was as calm as water. He looked indifferently at the stone axe on the ground. The stone axe had sunk very deep. Get out of the way, Yi Li said slowly. The dozen or so genetic warriors were a little confused, but how could they dare to disobey Yi Li? They retreated far away. However, Yi Li raised his leg and stomped on the ground. In an instant, the stone axe was shaken out. At the same time, a bolt of lightning struck the stone axe. The stone axe split open, and an axe that was shining with treasure light appeared in Yi Li's hand. Boom! The genetic warriors, led by the old man in traditional Chinese attire, took 3 steps back. At this moment, there were no words that could describe their fear. They looked at Yi Li's figure in shock. He was really like a demon lord descending from the sky, like a god in the mortal world. Now all the 3 Pangu axe fragments had been found. Yi Li opened the synthesis grid and placed the 3 pieces of Pangu axe into it. Then he began to synthesize. In the end, one of the 10 great divine weapons, the Pangu axe, appeared in Yi Li's hand. Yi Li looked at the treasure light in his hand, and a playful smile appeared on his handsome face. Without thinking too much, he placed the Pangu axe into the system space. Then he released Ada and Hongya from the system space. Alda, Hongya, let's split up and look for the other members of the Apocalypse Legion, Yi Li said to Ada and Hongya. Ada and Hongya nodded and disappeared. Yi Li looked at the genetic warriors led by the old man in the traditional Chinese suit, and realized that they were already frozen like clay sculptures. He had seen this scene countless times, so there was nothing to be surprised about. Senior, may I know your name? The old man in the Tang suit looked at Yi Li in shock. He guessed that the axe in Yi Li's hand was the shocking spiritual treasure in the mountain, but after witnessing Yi Li's strength, he definitely did not have any thoughts of snatching it. After the old man finished speaking, he realized that he had said something wrong and hurriedly said, "My name is Qin and am the head of the Qin family in Linjiang City." Yi Li. Yi Li spoke slowly. The name Yi Li was naturally an unfamiliar name to Qinin. Chapter 642. How can people like you change B0s and Val? CM, I wonder what realm Senior is in. Qinin looked at Yi Li carefully. Although he knew that he shouldn't ask, he couldn't hold back his curiosity. Yi Li smiled faintly. Do you think I need to tell you? Qinin was startled when he heard that. He knew that he had said something wrong. I'm sorry, Senior. I didn't mean to ask, Qinin hurriedly said. He knew that he could not afford to offend someone like Yi Li. Otherwise, they would all be finished. Yi Li did not continue to stay on the mountain. He slowly walked down the mountain. The genetic warriors looked at Yi Li's back in shock. They all gulped. Patriarch, do you think he can be a transcender? A Tier 5 evolved being asked in astonishment. After evolved beings came transcender. To them, transcender was like an insurmountable mountain. A bitter smile appeared on Qinan's old face. He looked at the sun and muttered, I didn't expect such a person to come to Linha Base City. I wonder if it's a blessing or a curse. With that, Qinan said to the genetic warriors, let's go back. Yi Li arrived at the Linjiang Base City. Not long after he arrived, he was stopped by a group of genetic warriors. There were more than 20 genetic warriors in this group, and they were all rank 3 evolved beings. However, the one leading them was a Tier 5 evolved being. Even with his toes, Yi Li could tell that these genetic warriors were from the Huang family. Brat, after injuring our young master, you still dare to brazenly appear on the streets. Are you courting death? The Tier 5 evolved being looked at Yi Li coldly. The passers-by stopped and watched. They all started discussing. Who is this person? He's actually surrounded by so many Huang family genetic warriors. I don't know, but this person will end up in a terrible state. I know who he is. He's the one who injured Huang Yin. What? Injured Huang Yin? Then this person will probably die. All of a sudden, the passers-by looked at Yi Li with pity. Brat, are you going to surrender yourself, or do you want us to take action? The Tier 5 evolved being asked coldly. Yi Li's face was as calm as water. He looked at the Tier 5 evolved being indifferently and slowly said, How can people like you change? As soon as he finished speaking, Yi Li raised his finger. I have a finger that can break the universe. Swish. The power of the one yang finger was simply terrifying to the extreme. In an instant, the genetic warriors of the Huang family, led by the Tier 5 evolved being, all fell to the ground with their eyes wide open. How is this possible? The passers-by were shocked. They would rather believe that the sky had collapsed than believe that it was true. So many genetic warriors had been instantly killed? Silence, a deadly silence. Yili looked at the corpses on the ground indifferently and said slowly, "Only death can make you change." With that, Yili slowly left. It was already sunset, and Yili was about to take a walk. Ever since he transmigrated to this world, he had never taken a walk. Taking a stroll could be quite interesting. Senior. Suddenly, Yili heard a surprised voice. He looked at the girl in front of him. He had met her outside Linha Base City. Her name was Qinwei. Yili wasn't familiar with Qinwei, so he didn't want to bother with her. "Senior, don't you remember me? My name is Qinwei. I'm the leader of the Lightning Zombie Hunting Team." Chapter 643. Coming to the Qin family B0 Zenvel. Siam, of course, Yili remembered Qinwei. However, he was not familiar with her and did not want to have too much interaction with her. "Senior, thank you for last time." Qinwei looked at Yili and said shyly, "It doesn't matter. I just did it casually," Yili said slowly. Qinwei was silent for a moment, as if she had something difficult to say. A few seconds later, she finally mustered her courage. "Senior, can I invite you to my house?" Yili was stunned. He didn't expect Qinwei to say such a thing. Was she interested in him and planned to chase him? Then, Yili secretly shook his head. In this world, no one dared to chase him. He thought that since he had nothing to do now, he could go and take a look. "Let's go." Yili looked at her and said lightly. Qinwei was surprised when she heard this. She didn't expect Yili to agree. She really didn't expect this. Immediately, her fair face couldn't help but reveal a hint of joy. Yili followed Qinwei to the Qin family. Not long after, Yili and Qinwei arrived outside the Qin residence. At the same time, in the Huang family, the Huang family head's face was ashen. He even felt that he had misheard. "What did you say?" "They're all dead." In an instant, they're all dead. I didn't even have time to see how he attacked. A Tier 5 evolved being looked at Huangwan and said in horror. Huangwan was the head of the Huang family, an 8th tier evolved being. At this moment, in the main hail of the Huang family, the elders were also shocked. They would never have thought that there would be such a person in the Linjiang base city. "Leader, what should we do now?" The Tier 5 evolved being asked Huangwan. Huangwan pondered for a few seconds and said coldly, "As one of the most powerful families in Linjiang base city, if we retreat, how can we have a foothold in Linjiang base city in the future? I don't believe that he's that powerful. Pass down my order. All the disciples of the Huang family will do their best to find this guy." "Yes, family head." The elders in the hall stood up and shouted in unison. Yili and Qinwei walked into the Qin residence. The disciples of the Qin family were all stunned. They didn't know who the person beside Qinwei was. Why did Sister Wei bring someone back? "You don't say. This person is too handsome. I've never seen such a handsome person." "That's right. He's too good-looking. One wonder how strong he is." Everyone in the Qin family started to discuss Yili. When Qinwei heard the Qin family's words, a hint of fear appeared on her fair face. She had naturally seen Yili's strength. After seeing Yili's calm face, she heaved a sigh of relief. "Who is he?" a young girl couldn't help but ask curiously. He's..." Qinwei didn't know how to answer because she still didn't know Yili's name. Yili. Yili said slowly. The name Yili was naturally an unfamiliar name to Qinin. At this moment, Qin Yu walked out of her room. When she saw her sister return, her pretty face became very happy. Just as she was about to walk over, she saw the young man beside Qinwei before she could take a step. This person. Qin Yu's pupils rapidly constricted. Wasn't this the person outside the revolving restaurant that day? Thinking of the scene that day, Qin Yu could not help but feel a lingering fear. That day, Huang Yun offended him, but before she could see Yili make a move, a shocking bloody hole appeared on Huang Yun's thigh. Chapter 644. The family head called this person Senior B0 Siem Yili naturally saw Qinyu. Thinking of how Qinyu was prepared to use him as a shield that day, he wanted to laugh. The dignified demon king Yi Li was being used as a shield. No one would believe it, right? Yuer. Qinwei called Qinyu. Qinyu originally did not want to walk over, but now that her sister had called her, she could only brace herself and walk over. She did not even dare to look up. Now her face was filled with endless embarrassment. Qinwei was a little puzzled. Yuer, who was usually mischievous, had suddenly changed. Sister. Qinyu walked to Qinwei's side and called out to her softly. Yuer, why do you look unhappy? Qinwei looked at Qinyu in confusion. Qinyu naturally did not want to reveal what happened that day. If that happened, she would be embarrassed to death. At this moment, an old man in a traditional Chinese suit walked in from outside the door. The old man was about 60 years old and had a dignified expression. Grandpa is back, Qinwei said. The old man in the traditional Chinese attire was none other than the head of the Qin family, the 8th tier evolved being, Qinan. The disciples of the Qin family hurriedly made way. Qinan was a little puzzled. He did not understand why so many people were standing here. When he saw Qinwei, he understood everything. Qinwei was his granddaughter. At the same time, she was also the pride of the Qin clan. She was currently studying at Linha Academy, and was indeed a genius among geniuses. However, when he saw Qinwei, he also saw the young man beside her. Who is this? Qinan took 3 steps back and could not help but be dumbfounded. Back at Linha Mountain, if it wasn't for this youth, he would have already died. Suddenly, Qinan seemed to have thought of something. The head of the Huang family, Huang Wan, asked him to go to the Huang family and told him something that shocked him. He suddenly realized something. Someone who could instantly kill so many genetic warriors of the Huang family. Could it be? Is that guy Senior? At the thought of this, Qinan could no longer remain calm. Senior. Qinan came back to his senses and quickly walked to Yi Li and greeted him respectfully. What? All the disciples of the Qin family were shocked. They would never have dreamed that the family head would actually call this person Senior. Who was this person? The family head actually called him Senior. Could it be that this person had a shocking background? The disciples of the Qin family looked at each other. Judging from Yi Li's age, they didn't think Yi Li could be a high-level evolved being. However, the family head called him Senior, so there was only one explanation. Yi Li's background was very powerful. Qinwei and Qinyu were also very shocked. They did not expect their grandfather to know Yi Li. However, Qinwei was the most shocked because she had seen Yi Li's strength before. However, she did not think that Yi Li's strength was stronger than her grandfather's. But now her grandfather actually called Yi Li Senior. How could she not be shocked? Senior, did you kill the Huang family's genetic warrior? Qinan looked at Yi Li carefully and asked. They're just some ants. I gave them a chance to live, but they didn't cherish it. It doesn't matter if I kill them, Yi Li said slowly. Qinan remembered that it was Yi Li who did it because only Yi Li had such terrifying strength in the entire Linha base city. However, when Yi Li said it himself, he could not help but be shocked. Senior, the head of the Huang family talked to me just now. After pondering for a few seconds, Qinan looked at Yi Li and said. Chapter 645. Everyone in the Qin family was shocked. B0 CMO. Oh. A hint of playfulness appeared on Yi Li's face. Does the Huang family still want revenge? Yi Li said calmly. Qinan looked at Yi Li's face and couldn't help but sigh. On Linha Mountain, he had seen with his own eyes that the 9th tier dark race member was instantly killed by Yi Li. He thought that provoking a ferocious god like Yi Li, the Huang family were probably doomed. However, when he was in the Huang family, he had seen a Tier 1 transcender. He did not know who this Tier 1 transcender was, but judging from the tone of the Huang family's head, he seemed to have a good relationship with this Tier 1 transcender. However, a Tier 1 transcender would definitely not be able to kill that dark race member in one hit. After all, that was a 9th tier dark race member. The disciples of the Qin family looked at each other. Of course, They did not know what grudges Yili had with the Huang family. I heard that the young master of the Huang family, Huang Yun, was injured by someone. Could it be? A Qin family disciple suddenly thought of something and could not help but exclaim. When the disciples of the Qin family heard this, they were all shocked. Qin Yu lowered her head deeply, because all of this was because of her. Shut up. Qin Yin glared fiercely at the Qin family disciple who spoke. The Qin family disciple was so frightened that he hurriedly shut his mouth tightly. Senior, what are you going to do now? Qin Yin looked at Yi Li and asked. What else can I do? If they really want to die, then one can only fulfill their wish, Yi Li said slowly. As soon as these words were spoken, the disciples of the Qin family were shocked again. They had never seen such a domineering person. The Huang family was one of the strongest families in Linhebei City, but why did it seem like they were nothing in front of this person? To Qin Yin, Yi Li had saved his life. He felt the need to tell Yi Li everything he knew. Senior, a Tier 1 transcender has come to the Huang family, Qin Yin said to Yi Li. What? A Tier 1 transcender? To the Qin family, a Tier 1 transcender was in existence that they could not even look up to. They were utterly shocked. Qin Wei looked at Yi Li's face, but she realized that Yi Li's handsome face was calm and nonchalant, as if he did not take a Tier 1 transcender seriously at all. Yi Li smiled faintly and slowly said, It's just a Tier 1 transcender. In my eyes he's just an ant. Silence, a deadly silence. The expressions of the disciples of the Qin family seemed to have frozen. Their eyes were wide open. They could not believe that Yi Li would say such a thing even if they used all their strength. A Tier 1 transcender was an ant. At this moment, there were no words that could describe the shock of the Qin family's disciples. Family head. At this moment, a Qin family disciple ran over. What is it? Qin Yin quickly asked. Someone from the Huang family is here. The Qin family disciple hurriedly replied. Qin Yin's expression changed. He wondered if the Huang family knew that Yi Li was here. Senior, look. Qin Yin looked at Yi Li. He wanted to see how Yi Li was going to deal with it. Yi Li smiled again and said calmly, Since someone is here to die, 111 fulfill their wish. Then Yi Li slowly walked out. Everyone from the Qin family looked at each other before following him out. When they arrived outside the Qin family, they realized that all the elders of the Huang family were present. Chapter 646. Huang family's elders B0s and Val. CM The elders of the Huang family were all 7th-tier evolved beings. They looked at Yi Li coldly. You're the one who beat up Xiao Yun and killed our genetic warriors? An elder asked coldly. There was no change in Yi Li's handsome face. He said slowly. Do you want to know why I killed them? Why? The elder asked in a deep voice. Because they don't want to live. I gave them a chance to live, but they didn't cherish it, Yi Li said calmly. As soon as these words were spoken, all the elders of the Huang family were shocked. They gritted their teeth. As one of the strongest families in Linhebei City, the Huang family had never suffered such humiliation. Brat, but you're going to die soon, an elder said coldly to Yi Li. Yi Li smiled to himself. He didn't understand. He really didn't understand why there were always so many ignorant ants. A mere 7th-tier evolved being actually dared to boast shamelessly in front of him. It was really ridiculous. I'll give you 1 second to disappear. Otherwise, you should know the consequences. This is the chance that I, Yi Li, have given you. It's also the only chance, Yi Li said calmly. When the elders of the Huang family heard this, their faces turned green with anger. Suddenly, an elder looked at Qin and Mr. Qin. I didn't expect this guy to be related to your Qin family, the elder said coldly. The Huang family was very influential in Linhebei City. The scene of Yi Li and Qin Wei returning to the Qin family was naturally seen by the descendants of the Huang family. Since Qin chose to walk out, it proved that he was on Yi Li's side. He smiled coldly. So what if I am? Do you think my Qin family is afraid of your Huang family? The Qin family and the Huang family were the top 2 big families in Linhebei City. On the surface, they looked friendly, but in fact, they all had ulterior motives. Who didn't want to be the number 1 family in Linhe City? When the Huang family elders heard this, their expressions changed. Mr. Qin, You're bringing disaster to your Qin family. An elder of the Huang family said coldly. Ollie. All of a sudden, the Huang family elder who spoke let out a blood-curdling scream. Then, his life disappeared from this world forever because there was a shocking bloody hole on his forehead. What? The elders of the Huang family and the Qin family people turned pale with fright. Even in their dreams, they would never have thought that such a scene would happen. I said that I would give you 1 second to disappear. Otherwise, the consequences would be very serious. Why didn't you believe me? Yili shook his head and said. The elders of the Huang family were shocked when they heard this. They did not expect Yili to do it. An elder of the 8th tier evolved being was instantly killed just like that, and they did not even see how Yili did it. At this moment, the elders of the Huang family finally understood what kind of existence Yili was. They all had the same thought in their minds, which was to escape. Unfortunately, Yili gave them a chance to live, but they did not cherish it. If Yili did not kill them, would he still be the Demon King? Yili slowly raised his index finger. On his index finger, white spiritual energy wrapped around it. Suddenly his finger landed. The extremely terrifying white spiritual energy flew towards the elders of the Huang family. The elders of the Huang family widened their eyes. How could they withstand such an attack? Oh! Then several miserable screams sounded. All the elders of the Huang family fell to the ground with their eyes wide open. Chapter 647. Chapter 647. Because they're all dead at this moment. All the Qin family disciples were frozen like clay sculptures. They dared to swear that what they saw now was the most shocking moment of their lives. Qin Wei and Qin Yu were naturally shocked to the extreme, especially Qin Yu. Her fair face had already frozen. That day, she was prepared to use such an existence as her shield. Qinan, the head of the Qin family, swallowed his saliva. He knew that Yili was very strong, but he did not expect him to be so strong. The 10 elders of the Huang family died instantly. They were all 7th-tier evolved beings. He looked at Yili and realized that Yili's handsome face was as calm as water, as if he didn't notice anything at all. Qinan had never seen such a person in his life before. Yili looked at the sun in the sky. He thought that the Huang family kept coming to find trouble with him. Did they think that he was easy to bully? Since they think that I, Yili, am easy to bully, if I don't teach them a lesson, the annoying flies will come again. Immediately, Yili activated the swift steps and disappeared. The disciples of the Qin family were shocked. They did not expect Yili to suddenly disappear. When Yili appeared again, he was already outside the Huang residence. He slowly walked over, and 2 Huang family disciples stopped him. These 2 Huang family disciples were both level 9 awakened beings. Although they were as weak as ants, they looked very arrogant. What are you doing? Don't you know that this is the Huang family? A disciple of the Huang family shouted coldly at Yili. Yili smiled. Huang family? The Huang family won't be here soon. As soon as Yili finished speaking, the 2 Huang family disciples fell to the ground. Yili's handsome face was still as calm as water. Ever since he transmigrated to this parallel world, he had killed countless people. He slowly walked into the Huang family. The Huang family naturally heard the screams of the 2 Huang family disciples. In an instant, dozens of Huang family disciples surrounded Yili. Yili had lost count of how many times he had been surrounded. However, the people who surrounded him always ended up badly. The people who surrounded him were no exception. The head of the Huang family, Huang Wan, walked out with a middle-aged man beside him. This middle-aged man carried a saber on his back. This middle-aged man was the Tier 1 Transcender that Qinan had mentioned. Haha, there's a path to heaven, but you don't take it. If there is no gate to hell, you force your way in. You actually barged into my Huang family. You're really courting death. Huang Yin laughed out loud, as if there was nothing more hilarious than this scene. The head of the Huang family, Huang Wan, stared at Yili. It was this person in front of him who caused the Huang family to suffer losses. Huang Wan suddenly discovered something and was stunned. Where are the elders of my Huang family? He thought that since Yili had barged into the Huang family, the elders should be back too. Stop looking. Your elder won't come back. Yi Li said calmly. What do you mean? Huang Yu stared at Yi Li and asked. Yi Li smiled. It's very simple, because they are all dead. What? When the Huang family heard this, they were all flabbergasted. What did you say? Huang Wan stared at Yi Li. Grandpa, he must be lying. The 10 grand elders of my Huang family are all 7th-tier evolved beings. How can they all be dead? Huang Yun said to Huang Wan. Chapter 648. He's just an ant. Huang Wan nodded and looked at Yi Li coldly. What is your purpose in deliberately deceiving me? Yi Li smiled to himself when he heard that. He thought that no one would believe the truth these days. By the way, I still don't know your name? Huang Wan continued. You don't have to know, Yi Li said lightly. Everyone in the Huang family was stunned. They didn't understand what Yi Li meant. What do you mean? Huang Wan stared at Yi Li. Because you're going to die soon, Yi Li said calmly. What? Huang Wan was extremely angry. He had seen arrogant people before, but he had never seen someone as arrogant as Yi Li. Humph. What an arrogant young man. At this moment, the middle-aged man with a knife on his back snorted at Yi Li. The middle-aged man's name was Shifeng, a Tier 1 transcender. When Huang Wan saw Shifeng speak, he sneered at Yi Li. If Yi Li knew Shifeng's background and realm, he would probably be scared out of his wits. Young man, since you're here today, it means that your life will disappear forever. Shifeng looked at Yi Li as if he was announcing Yi Li's death sentence. Yi Li looked at Shifeng indifferently and smiled. Because of an ant like you? What? As soon as these words were spoken, the Huang family couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air, and looked at Yi Li with their mouths agape. This was a Tier 1 transcender, yet Yi Li actually called a transcender an ant? How dare you be so arrogant? Do you know who he is? Huang An roared furiously. Aren't they ants? Yi Li asked. Shocking, absolutely shocking. Shifeng would never have thought that Yi Li would actually call him an ant. As a Tier 1 transcender, when had anyone ever dared to call him an ant? Ignorant rats. How can you know how high the sky is and how wide the earth is? Shifeng said coldly. Yi Li's handsome face was calm, and he said lightly to Shifeng. You're just a Tier 1 transcender, yet you dare to talk about the sky and the earth. What a joke. What? The Huang family would never have thought that Yi Li knew Shifeng's cultivation level. But why? Why wasn't he afraid? Why was he still so calm? Could it be that he had something to rely on? You know that I'm a Tier 1 transcender? Shifeng looked at Yi Li in shock. Yi Li smiled faintly. It's very difficult to see through a Tier 1 transcender? Just an ant. Huang Yun was stunned. How could he have expected Yi Li to know that Mr. Shi was a Tier 1 transcender, and still be so arrogant? However, this was the Huang family. Yi Li had no way out. Even if he had extraordinary abilities, he would definitely die today. Thinking back to the day when Yi Li gave him a heart-piercing pain outside the revolving restaurant, Huang Yun couldn't take it anymore. Now that things have come to this, what else do you have to be arrogant about? Today, I'm going to let you die without a burial place. Huang Yun roared at Yi Li. Yi Li smiled faintly. There was no change in his handsome face as he looked at Huang Yun. Since you want me, Yi Li, to die without a burial place, I'll destroy your body and soul first. Boom. As soon as he finished speaking, a loud bang entered the ears of the Huang family. Huang Yun's body had already exploded and he died. How was that possible? When the Huang family saw this scene, all of them fell limply to the ground. Chapter 649. From the Four Weapons Hall Yuner. Huang Wan shouted. Everyone in the Huang family looked at Yi Li in horror. They really didn't expect Huang Yun to suddenly explode and die. Shifeng was also a little shocked. He stared fixedly at the youth in front of him. I want you dead. Huang Wan shouted at Yi Li. Attack. Huang Wan roared at the Huang family disciples. Following Huang Wan's order, the disciples of the Huang family started to rush towards Yi Li. Unfortunately, they were too weak and pitiful in front of Yi Li. Yi Li slowly raised his index finger. On his index finger, a shocking white spiritual light wrapped around it. Swish. 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 As countless sounds of wind breaking appeared, screams began to ring out. A tragic scene appeared in front of Yili, but there was still no change in his handsome face. In this perilous world, one killed my way out with the blade in my hand. Well, well. When Huangwan saw this scene, his pupils shrank rapidly. Dozens of Huang family disciples were finished just like that? Shifeng's eyes could not help but widen. He would never have thought that Yili would be so terrifying. Yili looked at Huangwan indifferently and said slowly, "How can a person like you change? Only death can change you." He originally didn't want to do this, but the Huang family provoked him time and time again. It wasn't that he didn't give the Huang family a chance, but they didn't cherish such an opportunity. Therefore, there was only one outcome for the Huang family, and that was death. When Huangwan heard this, he could not help but be shocked. All the strength in his body seemed to have been sucked dry by something, and his eyes were filled with shock. He wanted to ask Shifeng for help. He really wanted to ask Shifeng for help, but before he could speak, a terrifying white spiritual light flew towards him. Ollie! Huangwan let out a blood-curdling scream before his life disappeared from this world forever. What? The Tier 1 Transcender Shifeng was terrified. When Huangwan died, he didn't even have time to see that terrifying white spiritual light attack clearly. After all, he was a Tier 1 Transcender. It's your turn next. Yili looked at Shifeng indifferently. Shifeng calmed himself down and gritted his teeth as he stared at Yili. What do you want? Shifeng said coldly. Yili thought for a moment, then looked at Shifeng and said, I don't want to do anything. I just want to kill you. Kill me. Shifeng stared at Yili. He was from the Broadsword Palace of the Four Weapons Hall. The Four Weapons Hall was a supreme power in the Mystic Land. However, the power of the Four Weapons Hall had been weakened recently, because the 12 elders who had gone to the wasteland had all died. One Hall Master and 12 Grand Elders had all died in the wasteland, but the other 3 Hall Masters did not dare to go to the wasteland. There was only one reason, and that was fear. From the Four Weapons Hall. Shifeng looked at Yili coldly. He knew very well that he was not Yili's match because the strength that Yili had just displayed was too terrifying. He wanted to use his identity to make Yili retreat. After all, the reputation of the Four Weapons Hall was known by everyone in the Mystic Land. Unfortunately, Shifeng had overlooked one thing. Yili was never afraid of threats. There were many people who threatened him, but they were all dead. Yili smiled and looked at Shifeng indifferently. Is the Four Weapons Hall very powerful? Chapter 650. The Huang family was gone forever. Shifeng was shocked when he heard this. He looked at Yili in shock. Was the Four Weapons Hall very powerful? Wasn't this something that everyone in the Mystic Land knew? Could it be that this person was not from the Mystic Land? Who are you? Shifeng stared at Yili. Yili smiled and said calmly, Since you want to know my name so much, 111 tell you. My name is Yili. Yili? Shifeng had naturally never heard of the name Yili. Yili, the reputation of the Four Weapons Hall is well known in the Mystic Land. If you dare to do anything to me, the Four Weapons Hall will definitely not let you off. Shifeng said coldly. Yili smiled when he heard that. Why were there always so many ants who wanted to threaten him? He didn't understand. He really didn't understand. I told you, the Four Weapons Hall is nothing. Why didn't you believe me? Yili looked at Shifeng playfully. When Shifeng heard this, he flew into a rage. The Four Weapons Hall is not something you punk can insult. Yili shook his head slightly. One of their hall masters and their 12 elders all died in my hands. Why can't they be insulted? What did you say? Shifeng's pupils constricted rapidly. He even felt that he had heard it before, but when he saw the indifferent expression on Yili's face, he knew that he had not heard wrongly. Now, do you still think that the Four Weapons Hall is powerful? Yili looked at Shifeng and said calmly. Shifeng was shocked. He couldn't help but take 3 steps back and look at Yili in horror. Answer. Yili shouted coldly. Hearing this cold shout, Shifeng was so frightened that he collapsed to the ground. You. Shifeng's voice began to tremble. He dared to swear that he had never been so afraid since he was born. How could he have thought that the death of Qianquan broadsword master Li Qianquan and the 12 grand elders was caused by this person in front of him? Tell me, how do you want to die? Yi Li looked at Shifeng. Shifeng was already scared out of his wits. He stood up from the ground shakily and looked at Yi Li in horror. Suddenly, Shifeng pulled out the golden back mountain chopping saber on his back and pointed it at Yi Li. Yi Li you. Although Shifeng pointed the golden back mountain chopping saber at Yi Li, his face was still filled with extreme shock. Yi Li shook his head secretly. It seemed that Shifeng was prepared to resist, but of course, resistance was useless. Swish! With the sound of a wind-breaking sound, an extremely terrifying white spiritual light attacked. Shifeng's eyes widened. He realized that he could not withstand such an attack at all, even though he was a Tier 1 transcender. I'm done. After Shifeng shouted, his forehead was hit by the white spiritual light attack. A shocking bloody hole appeared on his forehead. His face was filled with unwillingness. He would never have thought that he would die like this. There was no change in Yi Li's handsome face. To him, the Huang family was just an insignificant family. So what if it was destroyed? Then he slowly walked towards the Qin family. Not long after, Yi Li arrived at the Qin family. The disciples of the Qin family immediately surrounded him. The head of the Qin family, Qinan, looked at Yi Li. After a few seconds of silence he asked, "Senior, the Huang family." Before Qinan could finish speaking, Yi Li interrupted him. "The Huang family has disappeared forever," Yi Li said slowly. Chapter 651. Chapter 65I. Discovering Yutong's whereabouts B0X and 0VL. Everyone from the Qin family was shocked when they heard this. They looked at Yi Li in shock. The Huang family was one of the strongest families in Linhebei City. "Senior, is what you said true?" Qinan looked at Yi Li in shock. Yi Li looked at him calmly and said slowly, "Do you think I'll lie to you?" As soon as he said this, Qinan knew that he had said the wrong thing. "Actually, I came back to say goodbye to you guys. I'm leaving soon," Yi Li continued. The disciples of the Qin family were all stunned. They thought that Yi Li would leave, but they did not expect Yi Li to leave now. Qinan knew that it was best not to stop a terrifying existence like Yi Li. Otherwise he might offend Yi Li. "In that case, take care, senior," Qinan said respectfully to Yi Li. Yi Li's face was as calm as water. He opened the Point Mall and bought an SS grade skill book. He handed the SS grade skill to Qinan and said calmly, "This is for you." Qinan was stunned. He carefully took the S grade skill from Yi Li's hand and looked at Yi Li tentatively. Before he could speak, Yi Li spoke first. "This is an SS grade skill," Yi Li said slowly. "SS grade skill?" The disciples of the Qin family widened their eyes. It had to be known that their Qin family's most powerful skill was only an S-rank skill. Even so, their Qin family still treated it as a treasure. But senior. However, he just casually gave them an SS grade skill. The disciples of the Qin family could no longer imagine how terrifying Yi Li was. After handing the SS grade skill to Qinan, Yi Li activated swift steps and disappeared from the Qin family's courtyard, leaving the Qin family disciples stunned on the spot. Why did Yi Li leave so quickly? This was because Hongya told her telepathically that she had discovered Yutong. Yi Li was very fast. According to the coordinates that Hongya told him, he arrived at an unfamiliar city. This entire area was heavily infected with the zombie virus, and there was no base city here. The city in front of Yi Li was already in a mess. There were ruins everywhere. "Master!" Hongya called out to Yi Li, and then went to his side. "Hongya, where is Yutong?" Yi Li looked at Hongya and asked. "Master, there is a Lord-level zombie here. Yutong is the subordinate of this Lord-level zombie," Hongya answered. Yi Li was amused. It was interesting that Yutong was working for a Lord-level zombie. Roar! Roar! Yi Li and Hongya heard the zombie's voice. Hundreds of zombies appeared in front of them. Swish! As the white spiritual light appeared, hundreds of zombies fell to the ground. Yi Li opened the synthesis grid in his mind and synthesized all these zombies. Hee, what a powerful human. Suddenly, a cold voice sounded. Yili looked in the direction of the voice and saw a 7th-tier dark race member standing on a tree. This 7th-tier dark race member was a woman. Her face was very exquisite, but there was a large mouth in front of her. Just looking at it made one's scalp tingle. Immediately, this 7th-tier dark race member arrived in front of Yi Li. I haven't eaten humans for a long time. I didn't expect 2 humans to come knocking on my door all of a sudden. Now I can have a full meal. The 7th-tier female dark race member laughed coldly again. Hongya's aura had already been concealed by Yi Li. This 7th-tier female dark race member naturally couldn't tell that Hongya was a zombie. Chapter 652. Casually killed 2 dark race members B0XN0VL. CM Yi Li smiled and looked at this 7th-tier female dark race member indifferently. Before you eat us, let me send you somewhere first. What do you think? The 7th-tier female dark race member was stunned. She looked at Yi Li in confusion. Where? Infernal hell. Yi Li said slowly. As soon as she finished speaking, this 7th-tier female dark race member exploded and died. Yi Li shook his head slightly. There were always so many stupid ants. Roar. Roar. At this moment, zombies' roar sounded in Yi Li's ears again. Hundreds of zombies appeared again. They pounced on Yi Li and Hongya unreasonably. Yi Li thought that there were quite a lot of zombies here. Of course, there was only one outcome for these zombies, which was to be synthesized by Yi Li. In an instant, Yi Li synthesized these zombies. After synthesizing these zombies, Yi Li and Hongya walked slowly on the street. There were still many broken limbs on the street, and the air was slightly foul. Humans, have you seen Mouth Woman? An 8th-tier heavy sword-wielding undead appeared in front of Yi Li and Hongya. Faced with the sudden appearance of the 8th-tier heavy sword-wielding undead, Yi Li's handsome face did not change at all. He looked at the 8th-tier heavy sword-wielding undead indifferently. Is the Mouth Woman you're talking about the one with a big deep mouth? That's right. The 8th-tier heavy sword-wielding undead replied. She's already dead. Yi Li said slowly. As soon as these words were spoken, the 8th-tier heavy sword-wielding undead was a little stunned. Then he hurriedly asked, how did she die? Of course I killed her. Yi Li looked at the 8th-tier heavy sword-wielding undead and said calmly. The 8th-tier heavy sword-wielding undead stared at Yi Li. It did not expect Yi Li to say such a thing. You actually dared to kill the Mouth Woman. The 8th-tier heavy sword-wielding undead roared angrily. Yi Li smiled faintly. She's just a 7th-tier dark race. What's the big deal of killing her? What's there to be surprised about? When the 8th-tier heavy sword-wielding undead heard this, it could not help but fly into a rage. It shouted angrily. Since you've killed Mouth Woman, you should die too. As soon as he finished speaking, the 8th-tier heavy sword-wielding undead pulled out the heavy sword on its back and charged towards Yi Li and Hongya. Swish. Only Hongya's afterimage was left on the spot, followed by the screams of the 8th-tier heavy sword-wielding undead. Yi Li looked at the corpse of the 8th-tier heavy sword-wielding undead. He thought that there were actually so many dark race members in this unknown city. Could it be that there was a dark race lair here or somewhere? Then he shook his head, thinking that these things had nothing to do with him. The most important thing now was to find Yutong. He opened his heavenly spirit eyes to check, but he did not find Yutong. Although Hongya discovered that Yutong was in this city, Yutong wasn't fixed in one place, so Hongya didn't know where she was. Yi Li and Hongya started looking for Yutong. During this time, he synthesized many zombies. In the end, he found Yutong in an amusement park. Yutong sat alone in a corner. Her cute face was blank. This was not Yutong's complete body. At this moment, there were countless zombies in the amusement park. There was a Lord-level zombie standing in an abandoned car. The surrounding zombies all worshipped this Lord-level zombie. Roar! Roar! Chapter 653. A 10th-tier Lord-level zombie B0XN0VL. CM Yi Li looked at the Lord-level zombie in the abandoned car. This Lord-level zombie was like an emperor. He seemed to be enjoying it. Yi Li thought that let me send you to hell. Then, Yi Li activated swift steps and disappeared on the spot. When he arrived at the amusement park, The zombies in the amusement park were still worshipping the zombie in the abandoned car. Then, Yili leaped up and quickly walked on the heads of these zombies. This move was called Swallow's 3 Plunders of Water. It was a superb visual experience. The Lord-level zombie in the abandoned car was stunned. He rubbed his eyes. He would never have thought that this would happen. Human. The Lord-level zombie cried out in shock. At this moment, the zombies had already discovered Yi Li. They started moving, but unfortunately, they couldn't touch Yi Li. In the blink of an eye, Yi Li had already arrived at the abandoned car. Human, you are very bold. The Lord-level zombie looked at Yi Li coldly. Yi Li smiled and said calmly, "You're just a Lord-level zombie. How dare you say such things to me, Yi Li?" The Lord-level zombie was stunned. He never dreamed that the human in front of him could be so fearless at a time like this. "Human, are you not afraid of death?" The Lord-level zombie looked at Yi Li with confusion. At his level, biting humans was no longer attractive to him, just like zombies did not need to suck human blood. Death. Do you think you're worthy of letting me, Yi Li, die? Yi Li felt that he had heard the funniest joke in history. He really didn't know what this Lord-level zombie was thinking. It actually wanted him to die. Hearing that, the Lord-level zombie in the abandoned car couldn't help but fly into a rage. "Human, since you insist on courting death, I'll fulfill your wish." Roar. The Lord-level zombie roared, then pounced on Yi Li at lightning speed. Yi Li smiled faintly. There was no change in his handsome face at all. It was as if he didn't see the Lord-level zombie pounce on him at all. Just as the Lord-level zombie was only a line away from Yi Li threw a punch. This punch might not be very powerful for a high-leveled chosen one, but for this 10th tier Lord-level zombie, it was like a cannon blast. Boom. How could the 10th tier Lord-level zombie dodge Yi Li's punch? It was immediately hit. As Yi Li punched the body of the 10th tier Lord-level zombie, its body had already been pierced by Yi Li's fist. Roar. Roar. The surrounding zombies began to roar crazily. They began to crawl toward the abandoned car. Yutong was now the subordinate of this 10th tier Lord-level zombie, so she was naturally among the zombies. Just as the zombies were about to climb into the abandoned car, another zombie suddenly appeared in the abandoned car. This zombie was a female zombie. She was dressed in red, and her fair face was filled with coldness. The female zombie was none other than the Tier 1 Lord-level zombie, the ice zombie, Wuxia. Wuxia struck out with her palm, and those zombies were instantly sent flying. Yi Li leisurely opened the synthesis grid in his mind, and began to synthesize these zombies. Not long after, these zombies were all synthesized. There were many zombies, and Yi Li managed to synthesize a S-tier master-level zombie. Chapter 654. Yutong in her complete form B0X and 0VL. CM Ding. Congratulations to the host for obtaining a chance to draw the lottery. At this moment, the system's voice resounded in Yi Li's mind. Yi Li thought about how the golden finger always came so easily. Without much thought, he used this chance to draw the lottery. The virtual pointer began to spin on the roulette wheel, and a few seconds later, the pointer stopped. Ding. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the skill to change the gender of a zombie. The skill to change a zombie's gender. It can change a zombie's gender at will. The same zombie can only be used once. Looking at the introduction of the skill that could change a zombie's gender, Yi Li revealed a playful smile. To be honest, this skill was a little too heaven-defying. With this skill, he would be able to synthesize zombies with half the effort in the future. For example, the S-tier master-level zombie he had just synthesized was a male zombie, but now he could change it into a female zombie. Little Yuju's level was still very low. If he remembered correctly, Little Yuju was only a 5th-tier master-level zombie. However, the most important thing now was to turn Yutong into her complete form. Yutong was being held by Wuxia, but she didn't seem to want to give up. She bit Wuxia's arm with her mouth, but Wuxia didn't feel any pain. Yutong's remnant soul was a Tier 3 zombie. If she could make Wuxia hurt by biting her, then the Tier 1 Lord-level zombie would be too weak. Then Yi Li activated the Soul Summoning Banner. Soul Summoning Banner being used. 10%, 30%, 60%, 100%. Yutong's souls and spirits have been gathered. As soon as the system finished speaking, Yutong's 3 souls and 7 spirits appeared in front of Yi Li. Yi Li opened the synthesis grid in his mind and started to synthesize Yutong's 3 souls and 7 spirits. A few seconds later, the Tier 1 Lord-level petrified zombie, Yutong, was synthesized. Brother? Yutong's cute little face was filled with joy. She pounced on Yi Li. Brother, I thought we would never meet again. Yutong pecked Yi Li's face. Seeing this, Hongye was a little jealous. She thought that if Yutong could do this, so could she. After pondering for a few seconds, Hongye mustered her courage. She walked to Yi Li and pecked his cheek too. Yi Li shook his head slightly. He thought that it was interesting when Yutong and Hongye were acting cute. Brother, where are the other brothers and sisters? Yutong bit her finger and asked Yi Li in confusion. They haven't been found yet. The Apocalypse Legion will be reunited soon, Yi Li said to Yutong. After that, Yi Li looked at the sun in the sky. When he was killing the Master of Darkness, he genuinely integrated the Apocalypse Legion into his body, causing their souls and spirits to fly everywhere. However, he did not regret doing this. There were too many humans in the entire wasteland. If he did not kill the Master of Darkness, he might feel a deep sense of guilt in the future. In the end, he was still a human. Huh. Where are the zombies? Suddenly, a shocked voice entered Yi Li's ears. Yi Li looked in the direction of the voice and realized that it was another heavy sword-wielding undead. This heavy sword-wielding undead was also in the 8th tier. After the 8th tier heavy sword-wielding undead finished speaking, he discovered Yi Li, Hongye, and Yutong. He was stunned. He didn't understand why a zombie was with 2 humans. Hongye's aura was hidden, but Yutong's aura was not. Therefore, this 8th tier heavy sword-wielding undead really could not understand why zombies would stand together with humans. Chapter 655. I don't know where to go. Either be 0xn0vl. CM the 8th tier heavy sword-wielding undead walked over and coldly glanced at Yi Li, Hongye, and Yutong. He didn't know why zombies were with humans, but he knew that none of them were his match. Although the 8th tier heavy sword-wielding undead could tell that Yutong was a zombie, he couldn't tell Yutong's level based on his realm. Where's the zombie lord? The 8th tier heavy sword-wielding undead asked coldly. He didn't think that the 2 humans and 1 zombie in front of him had killed the zombie lord because the zombie lord was a 10th tier zombie and had thousands of zombies under its command. Do I have to tell you? Yi Li looked at the 8th tier heavy sword-wielding undead indifferently. The 8th tier heavy sword-wielding undead was stunned. It did not expect the human in front of it to say such a thing. Human, do you know what kind of existence you are talking to? The 8th tier heavy sword-wielding undead shouted coldly at Yi Li. A mere 8th tier dark race member actually dares to speak to me like this. He's really courting death. Yutong's cute little face was filled with extreme disdain. As soon as he finished speaking, Yutong had already attacked. The 8th tier heavy sword-wielding undead widened its eyes. Even in its dreams, it would never have thought that it would not be able to dodge Yutong's attack. Moreover, what was with this power? Ollie, the 8th tier heavy sword-wielding undead let out a loud cry, and then its life disappeared from this world forever. Yi Li's handsome face was as calm as water. To him, an 8th tier heavy sword-wielding undead was a pitifully weak ant. His death naturally could not change the calmness on his face. Let's go. Yi Li looked at Hongye and Yutong. Ada didn't tell Yi Li the news about the Apocalypse Legion. Now, they could only try their luck and go around. Then Yi Li, Hongye, and Yutong walked slowly in this messy city. This city was the most miserable city Yi Li had ever seen. Broken limbs were everywhere. It was a tragic sight. Brother, where are we going now? Yutong shook her cute little head and asked Yi Li. I don't know. Let's just walk around, Yi Li said. With their current strength, they could go anywhere in the Mystic Land, so they were naturally not afraid. After saying that, Yi Li hid Yutong's aura. After walking for half a day, Yi Li activated his heavenly spirit eyes. After probing for a while, he realized that there was actually a village not far ahead. This village was not big. What he did not expect was that there were humans in this village. Let's go somewhere. Yili pointed at the village and said slowly. Hongye and Yutong nodded. Then they walked towards the village not far away. When they arrived at the village, the appearance of the three of them frightened the humans in the village. They had never seen such a good-looking person before, so they all stopped and looked. Who are they? I don't know. They look like genetic warriors. If they're genetic warriors, why can't I detect their auras? Maybe they're powerhouses, that's why they can't detect it. The villagers began to whisper among themselves. Naturally, Yili heard the villagers' discussions. His handsome face didn't waver at all. Who are you? An old man looked at Yili and asked in confusion. Chapter 656. I can cure your grandmother's eyes B0x and 0VL. CM Yili looked at the old man who spoke. This old man was also a genetic warrior, and his level was not low. He was actually a Tier 5 evolved being. We are just passing by, Yili said slowly to the old man. The old man wasn't the only genetic warrior in this village. Everyone Yili saw was a genetic warrior. He didn't expect such a genetic warrior village to exist. I believe you are also genetic warriors, right? The old man pondered for a few seconds before looking at Yili and the others. Yili nodded. That's right. Old man, do you know if there are any special zombies around here? As soon as he said that, all the villagers were stunned. Special zombies? What do you mean by special zombies? The old man was puzzled. He didn't know why the young man in front of him asked this question. Well, Yili thought for a moment and continued. For example, a zombie with a sword, a zombie with a spear, a very fair and fat zombie. Hearing that, all the villagers were stunned. Weren't all zombies disgusting? Why were there white and fat zombies? They didn't know. They really didn't know. I've never seen him before. The old man shook his head. Yili came to this village to ask around, and also to try his luck. Since these people had never seen him before, he could only give up. However, there's a dark race lair on the Twin Dragon Mountain not far from us, the old man said. Yili smiled to himself. Even if he used his toes to think, he would be able to figure out that the Mouth Woman and the 8th tier heavy sword-wielding undead all came from the nest of the Twin Dragon Mount that the old man mentioned. However, he had nothing to do with the dark race's lair in the Twin Dragon Mount, so he didn't care about these things. Yili looked at the setting sun at the side of the mountain, and thought that he would rest here for the night, and continue on his way tomorrow. Uncle, can we stay here for the night? Yili asked the old man. The old man hesitated. He didn't know whether Yili's group was good or bad. He was the village chief, so he had to be more vigilant. Are you good or bad people? A little girl looked at Yili and the others curiously. Of course we are good people, Yili said to the little girl. Then, since you're good people, come to my house, the little girl said with a sweet smile. The old man's face darkened. Tianer, don't act on your own. The little girl called Tianer was a little puzzled. She looked at the old man in confusion. Grandpa Gu, they are good people. Yili was amused and thought that Tianer was interesting. She looked like she was only 7 or 8 years old. The old man didn't know what to say. If he directly said that he didn't believe that Yili and the rest were good people, it might offend Yili and the rest. After all, he didn't know what realm Yili and the others were in. If they were a terrifying existence, their village would be finished. Oh well, Tianer smiled again. Seniors, my family only has me and my grandmother. However, my grandmother is blind. It's enough for you to stay. At the mention of her grandmother, Tianer's cute little face became a little sad. Is your grandma blind? Yili looked at Tianer. Yes, senior. Tianer was a little puzzled, not understanding why Yili would ask such a question. One can cure your grandma's eyes, Yili said slowly. Chapter 657. Senior is really a god B0x and 0VL. CM when Yili said this, not only Tianer, but all the villagers were shocked. Senior, can you really cure my grandma's eyes? Tianer's eyes were filled with hope. Of course. Yili nodded. The villagers looked at each other, and looked at Yili in disbelief. To them, Yili was just bragging. How could he cure that? Seniors, come with me, Tianer said. Then Yili, Hongya, and Yutong followed Tianer to her house. When they arrived at Tianer's house, Yili looked at the old woman sitting on the chair. The old woman looked to be in her 60s and there were traces of time on her face. Grandma, I'm back. Sweetie ran to her grandmother's side. After her grandmother touched it a few times, she finally touched Tianer's little head. Did you cultivate well today? Her grandmother asked Tianer. Of course. Tianer works very hard every day, Tianer said with a smile. By the way, Grandma, Senior said that it can cure your eyes, Tianer continued. When Tianer's grandma heard this, the smile on her face instantly froze. But then she shook her head. That's impossible. My eyes can't be cured. Tianer turned around and looked at Yili. She realized that Yili was looking at her indifferently. The villagers followed him. They wanted to see what Yili was up to. Although they guessed that Yili was bragging, they also wanted to see how capable he was. However, Yili slowly raised his palm, and a gentle white spiritual light slowly emitted from his hand. The white spiritual light went towards Tianer's grandma's eyes. In an instant, a strange light began to appear in Tianer's grandma's eyes. All the villagers were stunned. They had never seen white spiritual energy before. Suddenly, Tianer's grandma stood up from her chair. Her face was filled with shock. Grandma, what's wrong? Tianer quickly asked. 1111 can see. Tianer's grandma's voice was trembling. What? When the villagers heard this, they were all dumbfounded. Tianer's grandma touched Tianer's cute face, and tears started to flow down her face. One could imagine how excited a blind person would be to suddenly be able to see. Grandma, can you really see? Tianer was still in a daze. After receiving an affirmative answer, Tianer became overjoyed. The villagers sucked in a breath of cold air, because they could not believe it no matter what. They originally thought that Yili was bragging, but what happened to their eyes told them that not only were they wrong, but they were also completely wrong. Grandma, it was Senior who cured your eyes. Tianer looked at Yili and said. When Tianer's grandma heard this, she prepared to kneel down in front of Yili. It was a pity that Yili didn't like others kneeling to him. When Tianer's grandma was still a step away from the ground, she felt a resistance that made her unable to kneel down no matter what. We just want to stay the night. With that, Yili yawned and a lazy look appeared on his handsome face. Tianer, quickly bring the seniors to their rooms, Tianer's grandma hurriedly said. Then Tianer brought Yili and the rest to their room. The villagers looked at the backs of Yili and the others in dismay. They were already shocked to the extreme. Senior, you're really a god, the old man said. Chapter 658. You're about to die B0X and 0VL. CM Zombie Treasure Chest X2. The next day, the system's prompt appeared in Yili's mind right on time. Yili opened the zombie treasure chest. Obtained 1,200 gene points, 1,200 strength points, 1,200 speed points, and 1,200 defense points. Obtained 10 formation heaven sword technique. Yili integrated the attribute points into his body, and checked the skill introduction of the 10 formation heaven sword technique. 10 formation heaven sword technique, heaven grade skill. Once used, the 10 great sword formations would suppress everything. Ding. Host, do you want to cultivate the 10 formation heaven sword technique? Yes. Begin to cultivating the 10 formation heaven sword technique. 10%, 30%, 60%, 100%. I've successfully cultivated the 10 formation heaven sword technique. There was no change in Yili's handsome face at all. It was just a heaven grade skill. He was now a man who could use the divine level skill, the heaven severing sword. Senior. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door and Tianer's panicked voice rang. Yili opened the door, and found that Hongya and Yutong had already appeared beside Tianer. Senior, there are many dark race members outside the village. Please save us. Tianer looked at Yili pleadingly. Yili activated his heavenly spirit eyes to take a look and realized that there were indeed many dark race members outside the village. They were all above the 6th tier. Then Yili used swift steps and arrived outside the village in an instant. At this moment, the villagers were confronting the 20 or so dark race members in front of them. Speak. Did you kill the mouth woman and the 2 heavy sword-wielding undead? An 8th tier spirit soul looked at the villagers coldly and said, What mouth woman and heavy sword-wielding undead? We've never seen them before. The village chief glared at the 20 or so dark race members in front of him. The villagers were all shocked. The aura emitted from the bodies of the dark race members in front of them was too terrifying. It doesn't matter. Whether you did it or not, you're all going to die anyway. The 8th tier spirit soul smiled coldly and prepared to give the order. But before he could say anything, a handsome young man stood in front of him. The young man slowly said, I killed the mouth woman, and I also killed the 2 heavy sword-wielding undead. As soon as these words were spoken, not only the dark race members, but even the villagers were stunned. Human, you are very courageous. The 8th tier spirit soul stared at Yili. Yili smiled faintly. I don't understand, one really don't understand. He stopped talking. A few seconds later he continued. I really don't understand why ants like you dare to appear in front of me, Yili. What? Upon hearing this, the 20 or so dark race members all sucked in a breath of cold air. Their dark cave was an invincible existence within a radius of thousands of kilometers. No one had ever dared to speak to them like this. Human you, what did you say? The 8th tier spirit soul's eyes widened. He even felt that he had heard wrongly. The villagers were also shocked. They swallowed their saliva and looked at Yili. They realized that there was intimidating killing intent in the corners of Yili's eyes. Yili smiled again and looked indifferently at the 8th tier spirit soul. I said, you're going to die soon. As soon as he finished speaking, he had already attacked. Swish, swish, swish. Dozens of white spiritual lights shot out, and more than 20 dark race members turned into nothingness. How could this be possible? All the villagers widened their eyes. They thought that Yili was very powerful, but they didn't expect him to be so terrifying. Chapter 659, Dark Cave, Twin Dragon Mount B0X and 0VL. CM the villagers dared to swear that this was definitely the most shocking thing they had ever experienced since they were born. More than 20 dark race members melted into nothingness. Not even their corpses were left behind. They could no longer imagine Yili's realm. Of course, Yili's handsome face didn't show any change in expression. To him, more than 20 dark race members were simply too weak. At this moment, Hongye Yutong and Tian'er arrived. Tian'er was stunned. There were still many dark race members here just now. Why did all of them suddenly disappear? Our village will never forget Senior's kindness. After saying that, the villagers prepared to kneel down to Yili. However, just like Tian'er's grandma, just as they were about to kneel down, their legs felt resistance. No matter what, they could not kneel down. I was the one who killed the mouth woman and the heavy sword-wielding undead, so they came to find me. You don't have to kneel, Yili said slowly. Even so, the villagers still looked at Yili gratefully. If it wasn't for Yili, they would all be finished now. By the way, where is the Twin Dragon Mount? Yili suddenly asked. As soon as he said this, the villagers couldn't help but tremble. They naturally knew that Yili was going to attack the dark cave on the Twin Dragon Mount. Senior, if you want to go to the Twin Dragon Mount, I can bring you there, Tian'er said to Yili. After Yili cured her grandmother's eyes yesterday, she admired Yili from the bottom of her heart. She even admired him to the point of prostrating herself on the ground. All right. Yili thought for a moment and said, Twin Dragon Mount. It was the most terrifying mountain within 1,000 miles, and all human factions within 1,000 miles regarded this place as the forbidden zones of life. It was for no other reason than the fact that there was the Dark Cave on Twin Dragon Mountain. In the Dark Cave, there were hundreds of powerful Dark Race members led by a Red Bull. This group of Dark Race members committed all kinds of evil deeds. The human forces were terrified even by the sound of their names. It couldn't be helped. The other party was too powerful. Senior, that's the dark cave, Tian'er said to Yili. Yili looked in the direction of Tian'er's finger. There was a huge hole more than 1,000 meters away. The big hole was filled with an evil aura. The group of people stopped in their tracks. Yili looked at the dark hole indifferently. Ants of the dark cave, I Yili have arrived. Come out and accept your death. His voice carried spiritual energy and spread far and wide, striking the hearts of the dark race members in the dark cave. Not long after, a large group of dark race members flew, crawled or walked out from the dark cave. A Tier 1 Master-level Dark Race member appeared in front of the Dark Race members. It was a crimson Red Bull that was 20 feet tall. It had a pair of towering horns and a huge axe in its hand. Ha ha! Suddenly, this Tier 1 Master-level Red Bull laughed loudly, as if it had seen the funniest joke in the world. Afterwards, the hundreds of Dark Race members behind the Tier 1 Master-level Red Bull all laughed as well, although they did not know what their leader was laughing about. When Tian'er saw this scene, she was frightened and quickly hid behind Yili. After the Tier 1 Master-level Red Bull laughed, he looked coldly at Yili. Human, did you just ask all of us to come out and die? The Dark Race members behind the Tier 1 Master-level Red Bull all looked at Yili playfully. They had seen quite a few humans before. But to be honest, they had never seen such a funny human before. Chapter 660. Fear of the Dark Race members B0XN0VL. CM Yili's face was as calm as water. He looked at the Dark Race in front of him indifferently. Is it strange? As soon as these words were spoken, the leader of the Dark Cave, the Red Bull, was furious. Human, do you know that you're about to die? The Tier 1 Master-level Red Bull didn't understand. He really didn't understand why this human's face could still be as calm as water at a time like this. Oh, Yili smiled. Can ants like you kill me? What did you say? The Tier 1 Master-level Red Bull glared at Yili. Hundreds of Dark Race members were also furious. They originally thought that Yili was an extremely ridiculous human, but who would have thought that this human in front of them actually felt so good about himself? Aren't you all just a bunch of ants? Yili looked at the Tier 1 Master-level Red Bull and said lightly, Skeleton, kill them for me. The Tier 1 Master-level Red Bull shouted coldly and angrily. As soon as he finished speaking, a level 9 heavy sword-wielding undead flew towards Yili and the others. As it came over, the level 9 heavy sword-wielding undead pulled out the heavy sword behind it. Not far away from Yili's group, the 9th tier heavy sword-wielding undead jumped up, raised its heavy sword and slashed down. Regardless of whether it was the Tier 1 Master-level Red Bull, or the hundreds of Dark Race members behind the Red Bull, they all knew that once the heavy sword-wielding undead struck down, the lives of these humans would disappear from this world forever. The Tier 1 Master-level Red Bull laughed coldly. He saw that the few humans in front of him had no intention of dodging at all, and thought that these humans must have been scared silly. The heavy sword in the level 9 heavy sword-wielding undead's hand was getting closer and closer to Yili, but Yili and the others still had no intention of dodging. On the other hand, Tian'er was so frightened that her face turned pale. However, when she saw that Yili did not look frightened at all, she was not prepared to run away. Boom! A violent earthquake sounded, and the surrounding dust filled the sky, making it impossible to see what was going on. When the dust settled, an extremely terrified voice sounded. That's impossible. Absolutely impossible. Of course, the terrified voice came from the 9th tier heavy sword-wielding undead. The Tier 1 Master-level Red Bull, and several hundred Dark Race members naturally didn't know why a Tier 9 heavy sword-wielding undead would make such a terrified sound. However, when they took a closer look, they could not help but take 3 steps back. How is this possible? The pupils of all the Dark Race members constricted rapidly. They saw the most impossible scene in history. Yili was holding the heavy sword of the 9th tier heavy sword-wielding undead, and his hand didn't show any signs of injury. The 9th tier heavy sword-wielding undead looked at Yili in shock. He would never have thought that his heavy sword would be caught by this person in front of him with bare hands. Receiving a white blade with bare hands. It had to be known that this was the heavy sword of a level 9 heavy sword-wielding undead. If they knew that Yi Li was a tier 4 chosen one, they would not be so shocked. Unfortunately, they would never have the chance to find out. Crack. Yi Li's palm moved slightly, and the heavy sword-wielding undead's heavy sword broke into pieces and turned into dust. This. When the Tier 1 Master level Red Bull and hundreds of Dark Race members saw this, they all couldn't help but freeze as if they were petrified. Chapter 661. Come here and let me kill you B0X and 0VL. CM the Tier 1 Master level Red Bull and hundreds of Dark Race members fell to the ground in shock. Even in their dreams, they would never have imagined that such a scene would actually appear. The 9th tier heavy sword-wielding undead did not have eyes. If it did, its eyes would definitely widen to the largest size in history. Its heavy sword was actually broken by the human in front of it just with a gentle twist. Are you very shocked? Yi Li looked at the 9th tier heavy sword-wielding undead indifferently. The level 9 skeleton undead was shocked and looked at Yi Li in horror. Actually, you don't need to be shocked at all because you're going to die soon. Yi Li continued. As soon as he finished speaking, the 9th tier heavy sword-wielding undead was terrified. It wanted to escape. It really wanted to escape. Unfortunately, how could it escape from Yi Li's grasp? Yi Li casually threw a punch at the 9th tier heavy sword-wielding undead. The skeleton undead was instantly pierced through. Silence, a deadly silence. The Tier 1 Master level Red Bull and several hundred Dark Race members' eyes were wide open, all of them frozen on the spot like clay sculptures. The 9th tier heavy sword-wielding undead died just like that? One had to know that this was a 9th tier skeleton undead. Yi Li's face was still as calm as water, as if nothing had happened at all. Human, who exactly are you? The Tier 1 Master level Red Bull glared at Yi Li. The person who killed you. Yi Li said slowly. As soon as these words were spoken, the expressions of the Tier 1 Master level Red Bull and hundreds of Dark Race members all turned cold. Although the strength Yi Li displayed was very terrifying, their overall strength was not something these few humans in front of them could compare to. Human, don't be too arrogant. The Tier 1 Master level Red Bull's expression was terrifyingly cold. He had seen many humans, and he had also seen many arrogant humans, but he had never seen anyone as arrogant as Yi Li. Ants like you who don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Even if I, Yi Li, am arrogant, what can you do? Yi Li smiled faintly. When the Tier 1 Master level Red Bull and the hundreds of Dark Race members heard this, their eyes widened in anger. Come over. Let me kill all of you. Don't ever choose to resist me. Yi Li said leisurely to the Dark Race members in front of him. The Tier 1 Master level Red Bull flew into a rage. This was an unprecedented rage from its birth until now. Human, one admire you very much. I really admire you. You actually want to challenge our dark cave with just the few of you. Do you know that in an instant, our dark cave can crush you into pieces? Although the Tier 1 Master level Red Bull really wanted to kill Yi Li, he really wanted to understand what this human in front of him relied on to be so arrogant. Do you always talk so much nonsense? Yi Li looked indifferently at the Tier 1 Master level Red Bull. When the Red Bull heard this, it could no longer suppress the anger in its heart. Kill them all. The Tier 1 Master level Red Bull roared. Following the order of the Red Bull, hundreds of Dark Race members all rushed towards Yi Li and his group. Tian'er had never seen such a scene before. She was so frightened that she almost fell to the ground. There was still no change in Yi Li's handsome face. He looked indifferently at the hundreds of Dark Race members attacking him and slowly said, There's no need for me to personally kill you. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.